culture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon wherever you are. Welcome, if it is night to you, if it is afternoon, if it is evening, if it is morning. Welcome. My name is Leo Nupolu Johnson, and welcome to another edition of the Liberian Dream, where we've been talking about non-for-profit leadership and community development. 3.0, some of you have followed the first two sessions that we did, and we will continue today. So I'll do a quick recap. Last time, for those of you who were here, we talk about governance, right? We talk about board of directors, we talk about board of advisors, we talk about the role they have to play. We looked at everything from a leadership structure, an organization structure. We had a chart where we looked at where everybody should sit. We also talk about your vision and your mission and how that needs to be situated in order for you to be able to operate properly. We also reflected on some of the reasons why our communities we're seeing around have been struggling with the issue of leadership, with the issue of setting up these organizations and lining them up in a way that they can be prosperous, in a way that they can thrive. Today, we'll be moving the needle a little bit. A lot of people like to talk about fundraising. A lot of you, everybody's out there trying to raise money, especially those of you in nonprofits, but not even only in nonprofits, even those in the for-profit world. Everybody needs to raise money. Everybody needs money because without money, most of the time you're not able to fulfill the vision and mission and objectives of your organization. So let's take a look at that and see how that works. I'm going to throw up the first image here, or the first slide here for you to actually look at so we can look at it. So this is what I call your fundraising metrics. So a lot of people think fundraising is having an event, bringing a lot of people to come and give you money, right? That's not how it works. That's actually the last stage of the work that needs to be done. So let's look at stage one. And some of these things, just to give you an idea, it does not mean it is like line by line how you should go and implement it. I just want to talk about some of the important things. So stage one, getting started. Ideas for a nonprofit. What is your idea? Should you even start a nonprofit? The thing that you want to do, is there somebody already doing it and they're doing it well? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself. Before you launch into, I'm going to start my own organization, I'm going to start my own nonprofit, you have a responsibility to, first of all, research. The thing that I want to do, is there somebody who's already doing it? And are they doing it well? Are they doing a good job at it before I launch into, say, let me start my own nonprofit, right? So idea for a nonprofit, because once you identify the idea, then you do, in the for-profit world, we'll say you do a feasibility study, or you try to look around you. Who else is doing this thing? There is no idea that you have that maybe someone is not already doing. And then when you find out who's doing it in your area or who's doing it where you want to work, then you investigate. Are they doing it well? Are they doing it the way you would really like to see it? And if they're not, then that might constitute the ground for you starting your own non-for-profit, because you will clearly be able to show a difference. But if there is someone already doing it very well, what you're trying to actually do, then you have to face the reality that you may not need to start an organization. You might need to join efforts with whoever is already doing it well if your idea is to accomplish the goal for which you thought a nonprofit was necessary. Let's come down to the next thing, decision to start one. And that's what I just outlined. How do you make that decision? Now, many details go into that. But the first thing to do is, who else is doing what I'm thinking about? Or who else is doing something close to what I'm thinking about? And if I find a person that's actually doing it, then the question becomes, are they doing it well? Are they doing it good enough? Is that something I can attach and affiliate my name with? Right? So let's give an example. Just because you don't like the person that's doing it, it's not a reason to say you go start your own nonprofit. Because maybe the person that's doing it, you let him, but the person does a good job at it. The next thing that goes into the decision-making process, are you competent? Are you able? Do you have what it takes to start a nonprofit? Do you have what it takes to start an organization? Do you have what it takes to start a business? When you answer that question, then you get, or those questions, then you come to the point of what is the mission for this? Now, this is where a lot of people get it wrong. The vision is what you already stated in the idea. The idea for a nonprofit, let me give you an example. The idea for a nonprofit to make sure no woman die from, what do you call it, giving childbirth. That's an idea. That is the vision. Your goal is to see a world where maternal mortality is reduced, right? That's your big idea. That's not something you can accomplish in 1 year. That's something that will take you decades and decades and many other organizations of working. I use polio as an example, even though we still have few cases in the world. But Rotary, over 10 years ago, set a goal that they want to work to eradicate polio. That was their big vision. And it's taken them more than 10 years. And they've done an excellent job. I think they've reduced polio down to a few cases, even maybe on 100 in the world. That's the big vision. Your mission are all the things that you will do every day to accomplish that vision, right? So Rotary wanted to eradicate polio in the world. So what did they do? They raised money, started up programs and projects where they will go to countries around the world and administer polio vaccines, where they will support local health facilities. That's their mission, right? What they're going to do every year to make sure year in year they are accomplishing that vision that is set. Your first board. Your board is very important. If you want, you can remove that word board and put governance. You can see these things are in the very first stage of thinking about starting your organization. Governance is important, or else you will mislead yourself to think that you are all powerful because you don't want all the work to start an organization, so you feel some sense of entitlement. No. If the organization that your private hustle that you're doing, then fine. But if it is to serve the needs of the public, where you're going to register and get a 501c3 or get a charitable status, then governance from the very beginning is important because it's not your private organization. You need the checks and balances. You need the accountability in place so that when you yourself are competent of leading the organization, the board can ask you to step down and hire somebody who's competent of doing the job. That doesn't mean it's still not your vision. But we see this in the Liberian community, for example, where many of our associations start very informally. We don't treat the issue of governance and all that stuff important. Now, when the organization grow now, the person who became the president by no process, the person who was the president, the board, the everything all by themselves, they're running everything, decide they can't move from there, or decide things must be done the way they want it, or decide that even though they are not competent, they will remain there, they can't leave. Then it becomes a problem, everybody trying to make them leave. How you make the person leave by phone? The person at the board, the person at the president, the person at the leader, the person at everything. Right? So these are the things that we should pay attention to. That's the very first stage. I call these your stages of fundraising. You don't get to the point where you just go to people and say, please give me money because I'm doing an amazing thing. And you know, y'all please give me money. No. You must do the job. So that is the very first stage. Let's go to stage number 2, where you have to build a solid foundation. This is also very important. Like I said, some of these things may not apply to your specific case, but a lot of them may. And they may look like they are a lot because they are in details, but most of them are interrelated. Charitable registration, in the US, you call it 501c3. If you get all the things in stage 1 right, that means you are ready for stage 2 to see whether you can do the things in stage 2. You register your organization so that you have the capacity to raise money, but also attract funding. But you have the ability to legitimize yourself. You find your first 5 key volunteers, right? The real test of your idea for an organization is if you are capable of inspiring and convincing other people to come join you and work, even get that for free from the beginning. Your accounting system, no voodoo accounting. You need somebody who understands how to do that. You need experience. And this is one of the places we go wrong again in our community, in the Liberian community. We still calling people treasurer. Their only job is to come to the meeting and collect all the $10 meeting dues, where everybody need that in their phone number, and next week tell us how many people paid dues and how many people did not pay due. That should not be the role. That role should be somebody who understands the accounting processes to either put those in place or help do it themselves. Logo and branding, I wouldn't spend too much time on those ones because those ones are more cosmetic, as important as they are. But the brand of your organization, when people see it, what is it? Yeah, what is your brand? Many people think a brand is just a logo. And for those of us in the Liberian community, we are horrific at creating names, brands, and logos. Horrific. You see some of the names, for example, and Less Fortunate Children Charitable Organization International Incorporated. When will you finish saying the name before you start talking? And most of them are not even registered. You also want to find a website. At 2022, how are you going to communicate? By going to everybody's houses? You have to find a website to be effective, to post your information and communicate, and as another powerful means of communicating with people. Your social media accounts, right? Are you on social media? Is the organization on social media? Have you been careful enough to open the organization's social media with clear rules around how people can use them or who can use them? Those are the things that we need to be checking out. Now, 100% board giving. Those of you who quick to say a board member for the organization, I said the board members have fiduciary responsibility for the organization. The board members need to make sure the organization have the resources it requires to be able to accomplish its vision and mission statement. So that means when it comes to donating to the organization, it makes sense for all the board members to be the first people to put their hands in their pocket and donate. Because if you believe yourself in what you're sitting on the board for, how can you convince somebody else? Right? First, organization budget. Budget. No, in our associations, especially the Liberian community, the executive just spend when there's money there and something to be done, they spend it. Then they bring the report later at the end of the year. But there is no budget to compare the report to. So how do we know if you are approved to do certain spending or not? So that's how we literally step in, and people say we try to intervene. Now, if you can complete stage 1 and stage 2, then you are ripe for stage number 3. If you can complete stage 1 and 2, you are ripe for stage number 3. Your first fundraising plan. That's where you start to think about fundraising. Your board engage in fundraising. Let the board make some of the calls. Let it also bring people that are connected with. Your donor acknowledgement plan. And all of the other things like newsletters and all the other stuff you think you need to do to be able to inform the people who put their financial resources behind you. If you can get stage 1, 2, and 3, then you are ready for stage 4. That's when you start to say, oh, the organization got funded with $1 million. It's stage 4. You get a fully funded budget. You get an operating reserve. You got fully staffed. Let's stop begging people to come and do work that we know anyway you go to do that work, you have to pay for it. So let's look at these things. If you ever thought about starting a nonprofit or any of that, or you are concerned about fundraising, that you really want to fundraise, you won't be doing fundraising where you're raising $100, $500, $1,000, $2,000. No, you worry about how other organizations can raise fund and raise $250,000 on one night. This is how it goes. Your stage 1, your stage 2, your stage 3, and your stage 4. And some of the things may not be relevant to you in the various stages, but there are things in the stages that you know right now you feel that. So let's get real with ourselves, or else we will continue to have this crisis in the Liberian community where everybody fighting who to be president. Everybody say the president powerful than the board, and other groups say no, the board powerful than the president. Then the president said they can fire the board. So let's get real. Let's have this conversation to move on. We can move on to the next image. Please and thank you. We can move on to the next one. Now, a big part of whether you will fundraise or not is this big term that people call strategic plan that everybody tends to run away from because it sounds so frightening. And that's true, because some strategic planning programming sessions can be so boring and dry that you lose focus. But let me tell you, your strategic plan does not have to be as sophisticated as the YMCA. You are not the YMCA. In fact, most Liberian associations are small, minute. They don't even have a $50,000 budget. All the strategic plan is a tool to define where your organization wants to go and what actions you will take to achieve those goals. It can't be because you getting money from this other organization, they support you in this way, so that means you change your vision to be there. Where do you want to go? If you can decide on that, then you can do a strategic plan for up to 5 years. You can do a strategic plan for up to 10 years. Different organizations have different rules. But that is where we should be as an organization. We can go to the next one. We can move to the next slide. All right. While we're waiting for the slides to come, I hope we don't have a technical glitch there. But while we're waiting for the next slide, whenever you hear strategic plan, please don't run away. You can help carve it out, right? Here is a strategic plan, the elements of the strategic plan. You see the first two things, your vision statement and your mission statement? Those two must make sense. If those two things don't make sense, everything else you're doing on the year don't make sense. Because those two things are like your theses that people will say in academia. And everything else must be related to those two things. Your core values. Who are you? As an organization, what do you believe in for your core values? Do you believe in cheating people? What do you believe in as a core values? Do you believe in not making financial report? What are your core values? Are you accountable as an organization? Are you transparent as an organization? You need to find those. Because if you don't find your mission, your vision, and your core values, you're headed for trouble. Because anybody who kind of organization and just do whatever because they did not meet a certain core value or a certain set of core values or organization. Then you go to what people call Swot Analysis. Now, some of you may know this who are in project management. Some other people may not know what Swot Analysis is, what type of analysis you're talking about. So we'll go through it. So your SWOT analysis are your strengths and your weaknesses. So your strengths, your S and your T. Your S and your W. W is for your weaknesses. The S is for your strengths. The O is for opportunities. And the T is for threats. Or some people call it risk. Right? And then you come down to your long-term goals. Your long-term goals are the things you would take from your vision statement. Then you come to your short-term, which will say yearly objective. The things that you say you'll do this year. Right? And then after that, you come to your action plans. Your action plans are what action you will take. If you needed to raise money, are you going to organize a kickball tournament? Or are you going to organize a football tournament? Or how are you going to get those actions you will take will form part of your action plan? We can move to the next slide. The elements of strategic plan. Again, I'm showing you another example. This example says also vision and mission. All strategic plan you see, those two things are key. It shows you objectives, plan of action or action plan, I said to you. And tactics, your approach and tactics. These are very, very important. Your approach and your tactics. The things that when you're about to do something, how will you go and do it? How will you think about it to go and do it? Let me give you an example. If you decide that you want to sell 100 boxes to support your organization, now you think through what are the tactics to use to make sure we are successful. So you say to yourself, every parent that participates in an organization needs to take a box. Every child also, say if you have 2 children, you and yourself, you need to take 3 boxes. Those are tactics, and they can change. Maybe if you try that and you realize that you're not working, you can change for that to say, okay, here's what we will do. We will say, if you take one box, we'll give you an additional one. So all of those things there's a tactics. Your tactics can change. The things that don't change, your objectives, your vision, and your mission statement don't easily change that way. We can go to the next slide. All right, best practices. Best practices for strategic planning. Again, this is not a one size fit all. Some of you may already know these processes and have things and tools that you use. But let's see some of the stuff. Test the assumptions. Just because they say young people in the community, nobody engaging, and so we need youth programs, you went and sat down to yourself and say, we'll have a back to school party. And you accepted that was the way to go. You took no other opinion because you assumed that kids love to have a back to school party. Test your assumptions, and the way you test it usually is by engaging the groups that they affect or they impact. So if you want to have a back to school party for youth, that means you need to organize 1 or 2 focus groups with the young people to test your assumption with them, first of all, that yes, they're able to do it, or no, they're not able to. We didn't have that done. We don't in most of our community associations. Avoid unclear language. Liberians with a big book, with the big words that we always like to demonstrate, use very clear language so people know why they're there and people know what they're supposed to do. Stop using language that nobody can understand. Stop using terminologies. Just break it down. Eliminate the use of rigid templates. Those of you who like to go Google and just find any template and try to make it work, it's a lot of work. It's even harder than creating your own. It's harder. So you need to change that, do it differently. And then, of course, we have a part at the end there that it says you can drop proactive discussions. Encourage proactive discussions at the last piece. Encourage proactive discussions. Don't be offended when other people disagree. Don't be upset because other people don't agree that the brilliant idea you brought is what should be in the strategic plan for the next 5 years. Encourage proactive discussions. Allow other people to voice their opinions. Listen carefully to the differing views. That's how it should be. When you do these things, I guarantee you, fundraising will not be an issue when you get the governance right. You get the various stages right. You got everything lined up. Fundraising is not an issue. In fact, you will be the one contemplating which type of funding to go for and not to go for. So let's get back to the drawing board. Our Liberian associations, let's look at them even more now. They ones that are not doing it well. Let's approach them to try and do it well. And if they refuse, then let's let them know that they're not running an organization, and let's take a step back. Because we can't keep doing it and be hoping that it will change some kind of way. That something will happen. And let's elevate it to the national situation. You see, in our national legislature, whenever they're about to do budgeting, it's like World War III is about to start. Always. It's because of lack of competence, lack of humility, and arrogance. Just because they make you president for the association, because you are the oldest person around, doesn't mean you as an individual, you are smarter than all of the people who have come later now, and we need to elevate the organization properly in the structures and where it should be. Now you get vexed. You said because you've been here since 19 you are the elder, they made you president, you decided you don't do elections. Or you decided you not accept for people to recommend. Like we can't keep going like this. How do you do that? We cannot. Leadership is the ability to inspire. That's what leadership is. So all of you who are running around, everybody has their own organization. I'm not saying don't have your own, But the checklist that I just provided you, please check it. Do you need to have an organization? Are you competent of running one? Are you capable of running one? And most of the time, the answer is no, you're not. So you're complaining while you're overwhelmed. You are complaining why when we go to meetings, we insult each other. We can get to make sense of ourselves. So we're here. I hope you found the information valuable. I hope you think about it. Like I said, for all of the series, I'm not going to be overloading you with hours of information. Like 30 to 45 minutes is what we'll be doing. Maximum an hour if we have to dig deep. Today, I didn't do a PowerPoint because I wanted to introduce the topic of strategic planning. The next session, I will walk you through, we'll do an example of how you come about with those things. We'll walk it through and we'll create a simple strategic plan in an hour on the show. We will create one, a very simple, practical strategic plan using the tools that we've just described. Because that's the only way we can go forward, if we figure out how to get things done and get it done right. And that's the reason why we all can no longer sit by and watch our community in rooms. We need to step in. We need to ask the right questions. And we need to tell our editors and everybody that leadership in the community is not and should not be by age. It must be by competence. It must be by humility. We can't keep deceiving our kids by conducting ourselves improperly. They may not tell you, but they actually know this. So the whole organization business, it also goes to those of you who join organization because your friend started one. Have you asked the right questions? Have you asked the right questions? I tell people all the time, for those of you, my friends who are in political parties, I ask you all the time, when last did you see the audited financial statements of your political parties? When last? Which is in stage number 2, accountability, the production of financial reports is in stage number 2 when you just start or when you just arrive. So there you have it, folks. Like I said, 30 to 45 minutes max will be here. We're not going to be keeping you too long. I don't know if anyone might want to call in on the show. Please call in so we can be interactive here. The call number on the screen. We'll put it back up so you can see what the numbers are if you're able to call. If you have a question, it does not have to be a question on the topic for today. Any question that you want to ask, please call 605-313-6004. And the code is 791-403# or the number sign. Call. We'll take any question. Question about today's topic, question about other topics, question about organizations in general, questions about nonprofit, about fundraising, about strategic planning. We will take any of it. We'll keep the lines open for the next 5 minutes or so and see if anybody wants to call in and participate, or else we will call it a day. But I want you to take the things away that we talk about today. The act of fundraising does not come as a result of fundraising. Many of you do events. You call a lot of people there. I believe events don't raise money. They don't. Events are too expensive. In fact, you end up losing. If you take into consideration everything you have to pay for, everything you must do, the hall rental, the chairs, the food, your own labor that you don't take into consideration, the labor that goes to the event, if you're paying people for it, you will lose. You will lose. And somebody might be wondering, so how then do you raise money? If you're telling me events don't raise money, events are great for celebration, in my opinion. And they do a great job. And that is the reason why we need to be hounding it down. Everybody stop organizing your own organization. Everybody can be CEO. Everybody can be CEO and president and executive director. To the point where now, when you go, like in Liberia, everybody in Liberia is CEO. Everybody in Liberia are ambassador. Everybody in Liberia are executive director. Right? We can do that. For those of you who are listening, if you can call, you want to also post a comment or ask a question in the comment section, please feel free to do that, and we'll be able to read them for you as well. Our brother Eric Small, thank you for joining. He said, thanks to the Polo Johnson. Thank you as well. Everybody can be their own CEO. Tati Colley said, driving and listening tentatively. Thank you, Tati, for joining my own sis here. Tati Colley said, you are a hero, Leo. Thank you, Tati. Thank you. I'm glad I can share something here that I have experience as well. Let's be practical. Everybody can start your own, because everybody don't have the ability. Sekou Sharif say, every single Liberian Association leader should be here taking notes, Leo. Thanks, brother. Thank you, Sekou. Appreciate it. Let's say the truth. Let's push each other, because it's the only way we can get better. That is the only way. Without that, we'll be wobbling in the same thing we see up to the level of government, national government. Let me give you an example. The same thing we're saying here when I talk about leadership and organization structure the last time for those of you that were here. So we got the Liberian government has broken down into departments. We call them ministries, right? Ministry of Agriculture. Let me bring it home and make it more practical. Ministry of Education, all the different Ministry of Health. You go to hire ministers, because that's hiring. When the president appoints ministers, that's a hiring process. They needed to have been vetted. They needed to have met the core competences that are required to be a minister, right? So when you hire them, you must then also give them a job description.
We have a caller.
We have a caller. Let's let the caller come in before we continue.
Go ahead, caller. You're live. Your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, good afternoon, Leo. My name is Sekou Sharif. I'm calling from Washington, D.C. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing very, very well, Sekou. Thanks for joining.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So I wanted to call first to tell you thank you, man. You know, most of these shows, the talk shows we see, when it's politics, you know, you have hundreds of people watching, which is fine. But one of the things I believe personally that's, you know, destroying most of our organizations or hindering us from achieving our objectives, what you just laid out. All of the internal mechanisms of the organization that need to work for you to achieve the outside objective. You know, people like celebrating the outcome when things are visible. But all the inside mechanisms, the internal mechanism that you touch on today, these are the reasons why our community, Liberian Community Association, are always fighting. The ULA, the this state to that state to. And as I sat and just listened to you, I mean, I went to school in the nonprofit space, so I know some of the things already you're talking about. But it was such a good refresher. So I'm just thinking about a leader who runs a Liberian community organization, who is now formally trained in nonprofit, who can really benefit from these things you're talking about. And I think we need to invest in knowledge. Yeah, you will not have thousands of people on your lives today, which there should be, because you're talking about knowledgeable things. You're not talking about sensational things. You're not talking about who did this, who did that. But these are the knowledge we need. In America, yeah, we live in America, we live in other places of the world. The organizations these people run, the government they run that we admire, these are the internal mechanisms they focus on that make those things work. We admire on the outside. But I don't want to take up much of your time, brother. Honestly, I just called to tell you thank you. I wish our people can invest in knowledge generation and knowledge consumption. So thank you for being on the knowledge generation side, brother.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sekou, and thank you for joining in to contribute. And I really appreciate it as well. And Sekou, don't get discouraged. This thing is not about calling crowd. We know already, you know, people love gossip. It's a natural human thing, not just in the Liberian community. The moment if I was going to come here and post that I'm announcing to run for Senate in Liberia, this place was going to be choked. If I want to announce that I'm running for representative, it will be choked. When I'm going to announce that I'm here to talk about president, we are stealing money, the place will be choked. If I'm here to even say a lie, but something bombastic and explosive that is destructive, that is political, the place will be choked. That's just part of our nature that it has become. But we can say we will forsake things because of that. No, we're not. We will keep doing the work that should be done.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Let me not jump up the line. I'm sure other people wanted to call, but first and foremost, I just wanted to say thank you for investing in knowledge sharing. Thank you.
All right, Sekou. Have a good evening. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So let's continue. And thank you for the contributions and with some of the points that you made. So the analogy I was trying to draw with our Liberian government, right? So you hire ministers who are supposed to run these various ministries and achieve goals that have been set. Our healthcare sector is in rooms. Our education sector is in room. Everywhere is in rooms, right? But you hire these people, first of all, most of them don't know their job descriptions. No, there is no job description. When last have any of you seen when the post, they don't even post it. When you hear they say, oh, they hire somebody or somebody is appointed as Minister of Education. Where's the job description? One. Number two, there are no measurement indicators. They don't tell them, say, okay, we're hiring as minister for this year. The government goal is to ensure on the education side that we build 2 new universities. That's our goal. Mr. Minister, you now need to take this goal and give me a critical path and strategic plan of breaking it down. How is the Ministry of Education going to achieve the goal this year of building 2 new universities? When you bring those goals to your boss, who is the president, and you tell your boss 2 things. 1, what resources will be required to achieve those goals? Number 2, you need to demonstrate to your boss that you have the right strategies and capability to ensure you achieve the goal of building 2 new universities. Billy, that's a long time also. Billy, thank you for actually joining. Now your boss will take that strategic plan and hold it. Dario Macario, say hi, Celio. You're truly a leader. Thank you, sir, for actually joining. Now, my brother Daniel Baron Henderson says, thank you so much, brother Leo. You are giving us free knowledge. Hope you will have this posted on your page for more people to listen and learn. Focus on Liberia will have it on your page, my brother, so anybody can join later on and be able to actually watch it or see it. Now, you, the minister, you came back and told your boss, the president, say, Mr. President, you said the goal for education this year is to build 2 new universities. We've taken it apart. We've created a strategic plan and a pathway to show how Ministry of Education will accomplish that. And in that pathway, we have asked to show you what resources will be needed, what skill set will be needed, and how we will do it. Now, 2 things. Either you're going to say, Mr. President, here's what we need from you to accomplish that goal. Here's what we already have. Or, Mr. President, we already have the mechanisms to raise the money ourselves. The president holds that. At the end of the year, when we go to the ministerial cabinet retreat or wherever, we're pulling out that paper that you, the minister, gave us at the beginning of the year and say you are able to build us 2 new universities based on the resources we have available. We check. Mr. Minister, please can report to us. Can you show us where the 2 new universities are that you built? If you didn't build any and you gave us all the excuses why, oh, because we raised the money, because there was no money, that means you're not competent. We'll fire you. Because you should have known that when the president said to you, we need to build 2 new universities, but we didn't get $500. You should have said, Mr. President, we've done all the analysis. We've done all the breakdown in the strategic planning process, and we've come to realize that we don't have the resources it takes to build 2 new universities. And based on our estimates and based on what money you have available for us now, it will be practically impossible to build 2 new universities. So let's revise our plan to be consistent with the resources that we have, or let's come up with a plan. We can come up with a plan to show how we can generate more resources. So because we don't do that, all of the ministries in Liberia are cash cows. They just drain money from the government. They have no revenue generation. Ministry of Education should be generating revenue for the government, and they should be measuring our revenue. Every year, we should be able to say, how much did Ministry of Education contribute to the government's budget? God bless Brown. Good to see you, Chief. He says, thanks, sir, for knowledge shared. I've learned a lot after just a few minutes of listening. No, it's supposed to be 2 sides of the budget. Clarence, go there. Good to see you, Chief. He said, I have a question. Can you let me in? Yes, Clarence, please call. We will let you in. Pick up the phone lines and call. We'll let you in. There are 2 sides of the budget. One side is the revenue side. One side is the expenditure side. You can't just be there to be swallowing and eating. Ministry of Agriculture needs to show how they can contribute to the national budget. Education, health, all of them. Then they need to show what types of investments need to be made for them to contribute. I know you think I'm thinking business terms. No, yeah, partially I am, but let me tell you why. There's so much resources available for the taking, whether it's through grants, whether it's through running a better healthcare system where you charge people the premium for those that can afford to be able to offset the cost for the portion of the population that cannot afford. The Ministry of Education, whether you build good schools, high-performing schools. Clarence Gota, the number is once again displayed. You can call in 605-313-6004. And the code will be 791-403# or the number sign. Especially in a country like Liberia, where we are at a place where nothing makes sense. We just beg for everything. So how can you be charging school? What's the purpose of charging school fees when it generates no net revenue? You know what net revenue means? Net revenue means you say you're charging poor people school fee, but at the end of the year, your contribution to the government budget is in the negative. It makes no sense. I ain't hiring no minister to come sit down who wouldn't know how to tell me that what part of the budget they might get. No strategic plan, but the government allocates money to each ministry because they send them a budget. A budget should be accompanied by a strategic plan to show us what is the value for the money spent. And the value for that money spent should have targets, goals, achievables, and deliverables. Because at the end of the year, we will go to that ministerial retreat for 3 solid days. Every minister will stand up there. We will pull out your strategic plan. If you said your strategic plan said you're going to build 10 schools and a budget for the 10 schools of $5 million, Mr. Minister, please report to us on the metrics of the 10 schools built. Where were they built? What are they? What value are they directly contributing to the economy? If you can tell us, it just means you're not competent for the job. And that doesn't mean you're not a nice person. You could be a nice man or a nice woman. It's just unfortunate you're not competent to do the job. Liberia is where it's at. You are either competent to go there and do the job or you're not. We will let you go. We need to find somebody else. So we're not firing you because we're not letting you. We're not firing you because we got our cousin to come in. We're firing you because your own strategic plan you drew up. You were not able to give us a convincing reason why you could not achieve it when you sat there and told us you were achieving. When you asked for the budget that you needed and we allocated it to you. And if we cannot allocate, if you ask for 10 million to build 5 schools and we're not able to give you 10 million, so we can only give you 5 million, you need to go back, revise your strategic planning and your budget and come to the president and say, Mr. President, because we only have 5 million, here are the achievables that are consistent with the revenues that we have and the resources that are available. Why I can do that? So everything is terrible. The schools are terrible, not giving anybody anything, but we're still collecting school fees. So what's the point of collecting school fees? It's just an exercise? What's the strategic thinking behind why we charge tuition fees? Because they're not meeting up the responsibility of paying the cost of running quality schools. So I won't know why you're collecting them in the first place. Why is LU open? Let's have a conversation. Let me wrap up here in the last few minutes. We have about 45, 46 minutes in the show. So we'll be wrapping in the next 10, 15 minutes here. We're not going more than an hour. Let's bring this thing practically down. I'm using this as an example. Tati Colley said, thank you for always imparting new knowledge in me whenever I tune in to listen to you. I am blessed to have been connected to you. Thank you, my sister Tati. Tati said, I just got to work. Have a blessed Sunday. Thank you, Tati. You almost finished the whole show, so don't worry. You'll not miss a whole lot. I'm just giving examples here. Why? Alex Shah say, hi, my GH brother. It's good to hear you. Hi, Alex. Thank you for joining. Tom Diallo say, good saying, sir. Welcome. Daryl Macario say, here we learn self-employment by just listening to an educated Liberian in simple terms. Thank you, Daryl. Let's break this stuff down. Why is the University of Liberia open? If the purpose of an institution of higher learning is to be the engine for growth, prosperity, and economic development in a country, then LU does not have the capacity to give out quality education. And if LU is not giving out quality education, I mean, LU is a liability and contributing to the destruction of the country. It can do both. It has to do one or the other. Either LU is directly, University of Liberia is directly contributing to the development and growth of the country because of the quality education that it is providing, or it is contributing to the destruction of the country because of the substandard education that it is providing. You can't have it both ways. The outcome of quality education is not the same as the outcome of substandard education. It's not the same. So LU becomes a liability on the economy. Because all of the people LU graduating, none of them are able to become productive citizens in the economy. They all have to go to government to try and be absorbed by government jobs. When the government cannot even fund its current payroll. So you send all these people to LU. They went through all these years. They graduate and then they have to go into the marketplaces with wheelbarrows to compete with the petty traders. After 4 years, sometimes some of them spend 8 years because depending on when the schools close and when they actually open. What is the thinking? If LU is not financially contributing to the country, it should be the economic engine. Well, let me tell you something. Whenever LU graduate 5,000 more people or 1,000 or 500 more people, it should almost be like a new boost just got into the economy. The University of Liberia, the education being impacted should be directly connected to economic growth. Directly. If you're training business administration people in LU that graduate from business administration, then they go to the Ministry of Finance to go beg Samuel Twerk to see Samuel Twerk and put them to the beach and waterways in the government. Why did you waste our time? Why did you waste valuable resources? What kind of university like LU that runs on $17 million budget a year? Doing what? What are you doing? What can $17 million do? The classroom students sit in is dingy. It rains, it's leaking. You can't afford proper Wi-Fi for students to have access to. No library in the entire country. Where are the research being done? And then when Liberians speak, you hear them say, the records are there, the records are where? The records are nowhere. There is not a single public library in the country. There is no proper museum in the whole country. So where are the records that all of you reference all the time when you say the records are there? They're where? Show us. Where are they? We need to transform UL and turn it into a technical university or a technical college. Right now, for Liberia to even begin to participate in the global economy, we need plumbers. We need farmers. We need engineers. We need trained nurses. We need electricians. That are the people we need. Because you know why? When they graduate from UL, and can't get job anywhere, they will become their own self-contractors. They don't need to be employed by anybody to become a self-contractor that can connect people houses or to be people private homes. When you're an electrician and you are trained, the moment you leave LU, you should be able to practically already do something with your hands. That's what technical universities do. Germany today, that everybody like to praise, one of the strongest economies in the world. Germany has the lowest youth unemployment in the entire world. You know how they did it? Through technical colleges and technical universities. 52% of all young people coming out of high school in Germany don't go to universities, they go to technical colleges. 52%. They do their first 2 years. By the time they're done with their first 2 years, straight into apprenticeship, they're already contributing to the economy before even a graduate from their technical colleges. They are already contributing to the German economy. So the productivity of the German economy keep rising the more and more young people that leave high school. So the education they are impacting is directly connected to their economic outcomes. Or else just shut down LU. The greater disservice you can do to our country is to have a University of Liberia that is open, deceiving our young people that they are receiving education that is useful. Let me tell you something today. We can be living in Liberia. We be educating people for the American economy. People who go to LU and graduate, when they come to America, they can actually do well. You know why? Because we had this illusion in our head that Liberia is America. So we photocopy the people's school curriculums. We take it to Liberia. So we teach the people's school curriculum, but because we don't have the existing economy, our people then memorize it. Our people are smart and resilient. Our young people, they memorize it. But then when they graduate from LU in Liberia, they look like zombies because the economy, all the things they taught you, the economic theories, the business management system, the books you were reading, none of them make sense in an environment like Liberia. They make sense in America. So when you hear people say, oh, I graduated from LU, I came to America, you see how I'm doing well? That means the Liberian education system is quality. That's a lie. You were miseducated. We're not educated. Those of y'all that come to America, when you come to America, go to American schools to learn how to serve the American economy. We need to train Liberians to serve the Liberian economy. Man, people, that's community development. That is leadership. We can be training people in Liberia, teaching them how the American economy is structured. That's the reason why the IMF looking just at zombies in Liberia. One day they tell you, say the economy is projected to grow. Then when the year ends, they tell you, say, oh, the economy grow, but the lack of human capacity destroy the growth. What kind of sense is that? How you expected an economy will grow and make any sense when there was no human capacity to begin with? So what the IMF is doing, pretty much, let me tell you this. They go to the Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance take bogus numbers and give it to them. Let me tell you why I said are bogus numbers. There's no way you can give proper economic numbers to any organization in Liberia when you're not able to organize the numbers in Relay, in Watasa, in Douala, in Vatan, in Jokwetan. You know why? Because 70 to 75% of Liberians don't do business in a few Lebanese supermarkets that are in Sincor. Go to the Lebanese supermarket, it's empty every time you go there. In fact, when you go there, you're walking with a cart, all the people that are working there can just be looking at you, no work. They're just passing around. But go Relay Market, any day, any second, Relay Market pack. Go Ominga Market, any day, any second, a pack. Go Douala, go Watasa. So you exclude 75% of the economy from your forecast. You go to the few Lebanese supermarkets and take their numbers and give it to the IMF as a reflection of the entire economy. Then the IMF too takes those numbers and do their economic math and come back and say, oh, the economy will grow. Grow where? And the only reason you are excluding 75% of the economy is because you are lazy to do the work that is required to organize Relay Market. That economic theory you learn in your book for America, we're not working organizing Relay Market. You need a different type of approach. Flower Heart asking me, are you a technical student? Just a question, nothing personal. Absolutely. Yes, I am. And let me tell you why I'm a technical student. I started a nonprofit organization in 2007, called Empowerment Square. I had zero experience, no university degree whatsoever in nonprofit or organization leadership or being an executive director. You know what I did? Webinars, workshops, training, certificate programs, right? I was in my second year in university when I was already an executive director, right? Taking all the practical courses that I had to do. Today, guess what? That nonprofit that I started in 2007 has grown to a $2 million budget annually, 22 full-time staff, 2 locations. We are doing a $2 million project in Liberia. In Canada, we support 200 to 250 young people navigate the education system. That's practical knowledge. You know, in Liberia, we think when they say technical university or technical college, we think it's a downgrade. No, it's not. It's a different approach to learning. It's applied learning. When we come to research-based learning, it's more theoretical, and it has its place. But you can do all the research with your degree, your university degree. If we don't have the applied learning underneath it to make sense of your research findings, it just be in a book on shelves. That's why most of our people who are BP book people, BP degree, why need Dr. Amos Sawyer and Emmanuel Boyer and all of them died today with zero legacy of what they could do with their sophisticated education and degrees. Let's be frank. Huh? Let me put it this way. You say you went to school to become a mechanic. You learned the mechanic for 6 years. They get you big degree. You graduated. You know all the mechanical terms. In fact, you're teaching in school. You're teaching other people mechanics. Then one day, our Toyota broke down. Our little Toyota broke down. And we'll call you or say, please can help us try to understand what happened to the Toyota. You don't even know which screwdriver supposed to go on top of the engine to open our engine plate. But you're telling us, say, you got 10 years of experience. You graduated with a master's degree, summa cum laude, in mechanics. But you can't even identify the engine compartment from the battery compartment. That's what we have in Liberia. You know what you did? You memorize and pass. That's what you did. Unfortunately, ask the question, all our BB people there, from HB family to Dr. Amos Sawyer, smart people. When they open their mouths, you say, yeah. But the only place they can shine are when they come to America. When we tell our sophisticated people from America, we take them back home, we get them positioned, they're walking around like zombies. They're not able to organize Relay Market. They're not able to organize Douala Market. Liberia, a small country, 5 million people. They cannot fix it. This is not a criticism of our people. The education they got, it was the education they got. They were educated for the United States, for Europe, for Western countries. They were not educated for Liberia. That is the reason why everything we try does not work. That is the reason why the IMF can do more purple. The IMF can set up what it will not work. That's putting square pegs in round holes. You know why square pegs? It's almost like the steak you get. It's square. But then the hole, they say you must fit it in a round. until we begin to focus on applied education. You know where I took this whole idea of applied education for? I think would make sense in Liberia? From Germany. After World War II, go and read. Germany was worse than Liberia. Most of the young people were drug addicts because of the war. Most of the young people were uneducated because of World War II. Germany was obliterated. Absolutely nothing left. Like, you think about anything, you think Liberia is bad? Read about what Germany looked like after World War II. And Germany realized that we can start building research-based universities. It will not work. For who? The young people, the many of them who didn't finish high school properly. Look, since the war, very few young people have completed proper high school because our high schools are complete mess. Then let me say, take former President Ellen Johnson said he works for it. So generally, we're going to build tech or research-based university. For who to go to? The young people, well, most of them did not finish high school because of the war. Well, most of them cannot properly read and write. Well, most of the schools that we had, if any schools were there, were not teaching the proper things. Germany said no. We will build applied. What kind of schools we're going to build? We build research universities where people are not getting PhDs while the war were actually fighting. Where we're not growing the next generation of educators that were supposed to take over. We have no teachers training college in the country. That where you come and build a research-based university didn't make sense. So what Germany did, Germany instituted a national policy of applied learning, technical universities and technical colleges. That's what they did. And the impact was immediate. You know why? Because even people who did not properly finish high school, but at least they could read and write, could enroll in technical university and technical colleges because they ascribe their experience. And you know what also worked? The professors who now have to teach, they now have to have PhDs. They get something they call, how do you call it? Applied professors, industry professors. That's a former proper name for them. They call them industry professors. So an industry professor is someone who has the experience equivalent of somebody who would have spent 8 years getting a PhD. So if that man spent 8 years building houses and carpentry, and his results and what he's done are so excellent and can show he's as equivalent to a PhD industry based because of his experience. The man who spent 8 years studying a PhD can write you a research paper of how to build a house. He can't build a house with his own hands. He doesn't have the experience. The same way, the man who spent 8 years building houses can build you the house, but may not be able to write a research paper of how to do it. So the both come equally important. So industry-based professors now, we ain't gotta be people ain't gotta be coming to America and lying, say they got PhDs when they're done. People ain't gonna be faking degrees because if you're an industry-based with applied knowledge and we can see the product of your hand, you are equivalent to become an industry-based professors in our technical colleges and universities without having a Western PhD. We've glorified Western education as if to say we'll solve our problems. We've been trying since 1847. Western education has not helped us. The only thing Western education does for us, it gives us the critical thinking that is required and the critical ability that is required. So let's wrap up the evening here and come back to where we are actually coming. Strategic planning is important, but people think it is too much work, so they don't focus on it. So the same problem we are seeing at our community organization levels, at our associations level, private organizations level, is the same problem that's manifesting itself in Liberia. People think you can take shortcuts. People think you can memorize the book and pass and say you know the thing. It can't work. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining another edition. Do we have any comments to read before we kind of wrap up? Yeah, I want to make sure if people are interacting, let's just read the comments. Dario said, you are very right, Sir Leo. Vocational training in Germany, we call it Ausbildung. Right. Thank you, Dario. Thank you. I don't know if I pronounced it right. Flower has a learning is application. Please, brother, give us your little education and stop mentioning those fools. So I will not call them fools. They did their part. Unfortunately, it didn't solve the problem. They all fool us because we didn't know better at the time. Clarence Godet said, Piki, you are educated and not a degree holder. Thank you, Clarence. Appreciate it. Sekou Shari said, exactly, brother. Bravo. Thank you, Sekou. Clarence Godet said, I must commend you and your team for the wisdom and knowledge God had endowed you guys with. Liberia has suffered from what is called leadership crisis. The differences between leaders and rulers have been our problem. So as such, governments upon governments have lived on what is called cut and paste policy, education versus a degree. Thank you, Clarence. Flower Heart says, are you a technical student? Just a question, nothing personal. Yes, I just explained that, Flower Heart. Tati Koli said, this is what our community need. Let's share to educate one another. Thank you, Tati. You know where go, inspiring small. Benjamin Setu say, what we need in this country is quality education, not free education. Thank you for your contribution, Benjamin. Dario again says, here we learn self-employment by just listening to an educated Liberian in simple terms. Thank you, my brother. Tati said, thank you for always imparting new knowledge in me whenever I tune to listen to you. I am blessed to have been connected to you, Leo. Thank you, Tati. Seku said, tell them again, there has to be a process. It can't just be trial and error. Mark Commander says, brother, you are right. We need to adjust and restructure the education system in Liberia. We are taught that we are not benefiting the economy. Just imagine, I was in MVTC doing heavy-duty mechanic. I met students who have been attending for 4 years and yet done nothing practical. Thank you, Mark, that people who go to school in Liberia are telling you that. Peter one day said, thank you, brother. Great idea. Thank you, Peter.
Those are all the comments for now, Leo.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We've just hit the hour mark, hour 4 minutes. Like I said, we will not make this long, so you can go back and watch it if you want to without having to take up your whole day. It's been another beautiful edition here of the Liberian Dream, non-for-profit leadership and community building. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I will be back here and we will keep the conversation going. Have yourself a beautiful week. Bye-bye.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.